Let me first explain what session regeneration is. Here is the story. The user is logged out, and the attacker learns user's session ID. Session ID is stored in a cookie, and it is used by the web application to recognize the user once the user has been authenticated. So as you can see, session ID is a very sensitive piece of data. At this moment, the user is logged out, so we are talking about non-authenticated session ID. And this non-authenticated session ID seems to be useless from attacker's point of view. Let's continue the story. The user provides his credentials and he logs in over secure HTTPS. Now the user is logged in, so we are talking about authenticated session ID. The problem is that authenticated and non-authenticated session IDs are the same. That's why the non-authenticated session ID learned by the attacker at point number 2 is no longer useless for the attacker. Now it can be used by the attacker to impersonate a user. How to prevent this attack from happening? At point number 4, the new value of session ID should be returned to the user. In other words, cookie with session ID should be regenerated at the time of authentication. Then, non-authenticated session ID is different than authenticated session ID, and this attack is no longer possible. Please also notice that session regeneration and secure HTTPS are two different subjects. Using secure HTTPS is a very good idea, but HTTPS is not enough. When session ID is not regenerated at the time of authentication, then the attacker who learned user's session ID at point number 2 can impersonate a user at point number 4, and this is completely independent on HTTPS protection at point number 3. So as you can see, indeed, HTTPS is not enough. You also have to remember about secure session management.